Okay. Okay, good morning and afternoon, everyone. I am Ravi Kumar and I'll be the moderator of this session as well. I'm at the same time just sharing my screen as well. Yes, and welcome to the Business Opportunity Seminar, specifically focusing on climate resilience. We are organizing this seminar to give you, the companies that are in attendance today, to give them an overview and update of the opportunities there are with working together with the Asian Development Bank, as well as giving them an overview of how the procurement system works at the Asian Development Bank as well. We have opted to choose for climate resilience, as this is an important topic to focus on in the region, Asia Pacific, mainly due to the increasing impact of climate change related disasters and of course environmental degradation. And as you may know, from the Netherlands, we do have some innovative solutions to combat these issues, ranging from innovative flood management to smart agriculture and nature-based solutions. But before I delve deeper into the topic of today and we kick off this session, I would like to briefly introduce our team. And I'll go to the next slide. Yes. We are Team International Organizations from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, also known as RVO. My colleague Leila van Dijk is also in this call, and we're both taking the lead in the Asian Development Bank. Our main goal is to support the transition of developing countries by closely cooperating with the multilateral development banks, international financial institutions, and as well as organizations, together with Dutch companies that have an expertise in certain sectors, which more concretely means that we are the first point of contact for Dutch companies that would like to do business with these banks or international organizations. And we inform them as well about certain tenders, projects, or events that might be relevant to them. Furthermore, we facilitate knowledge exchanges such as this one, but also study trips to the Netherlands that might be of interest to them. Furthermore, we also introduce Dutch innovations that might be relevant in a more global context. Coordinate certain government activities that have a financial or multilateral development bank component attached to it. And perhaps the most interesting is that we also help certain Dutch companies through our partner and challenge-based tracks. The partner tracks refers to a bit more of an individual track in which we give advice on how to do business with multilateral development banks. And the challenge-based one is more focused on doing it together in a consortium, focusing on certain SDGs. In case you're more interested to learn how we can work together, feel free to reach out to our mail that I will let you know in a bit. But feel free to reach out to us. Then we'll just move towards the agenda of today. In a bit, we'll start with the introduction remarks given by the Asian Development Bank, followed by the in-depth presentations on the business opportunities on climate resilience, as well as the procurement systems used by the ADB. But before I give the word to Ernesto Brown to start, I would like to remind you of certain rules that we have set up for this webinar. You may know these rules from other webinars as well, but just to reiterate them, please mute your microphone unless you're the speaker. Furthermore, we do have a Q&A towards the end. There is a chat function in Zoom as well, so please use the chat box to ask your questions. And I would highly recommend that you redirect them to the expert who you would like to have the answers from, so that we know how we could redirect them to them. It makes it easier to answer them as well. This seminar will be recorded as well. And if you have any additional questions or we weren't being able to answer all of your questions, please feel free to contact us using the TO email address that's listed here. That's to@rvo.nl. And towards the end, there will also be a QR code or a link. Please use it to let us know what you thought of this webinar and give us feedback so we can improve in the future. Then I suggest that we start off with the Business Opportunity Seminar. I would like to briefly introduce Ernesto Brown. Ernesto Brown is the alternate executive director for Canada, Denmark, Finland, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, and of course the Netherlands. Ernesto, can I ask you to kick off this session? You are muted. Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Ja, oké, great. Allereerst welkom aan alle Nederlanders in dit seminar. Goedemorgen, 10:00 's ochtends. Now we'll continue in English because I don't think the Dutch language is yet a world language. Maybe in the future, we'll see. Normally when I open a seminar or am in a panel and it's a physical seminar, I would say something like, well, on the way to the seminar, I was thinking about so-and-so, or I saw this and that, and I just met so-and-so. But this is an online seminar, so I don't have such a remark, except for I was just reading the Dutch newspaper, NRC, quality newspaper in the Netherlands, which had an interesting article about a car-free neighborhood in the city of Utrecht, which is sort of the future of cities, a climate-friendly city. So by that article, you can see all the different innovations and sort of, I would say, frontline position that the Netherlands and Dutch companies take on climate and innovation. So I'm very happy that this Business Opportunity Seminar takes place, can be held with many Dutch participants and also many number of experts from the Asian Development Bank. I would like to thank first the Director of Procurement, Division 2, Rustam Abdulkayumov. I had to practice on that name, I have to admit. Talat Nasirov, Chief Climate Change, Noel O'Brien, Leila Vandic, the coordinator of the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, and of course yourself, Ravi, and all the other participants today in this seminar. At the annual meeting of the Asian Development Bank last year, our head of delegation, who came over to Manila, where all 68 countries were represented, mentioned the nexus climate, water, food. Climate change, water management, and food security as an important link. And the Netherlands has a top expertise both on water and on food, as probably most of you know, and important institutes, knowledge institutes in the Netherlands. Now, ADB is very eager to introduce innovations and technology from the market in its projects in order to support partner countries, which we call developing member countries in ADB, so that they will be able to mitigate carbon emissions and also adapt to climate and disaster events. I'm very happy that the ADB procurement framework is introducing more quality and sustainable aspects in ADB projects. So that offers good opportunities, I think, to Dutch companies and institutes. Now, contractors from the Netherlands can greatly, I think, contribute to ADB projects on climate and on water. I understand that procurement on climate is not purely a one-way street and transactional, but that companies can also themselves propose new innovative ideas along the procedure and the process. And I do encourage today all the participants, all the Dutch companies here, to actively engage and communicate with ADB. This seminar offers an excellent opportunity to get to know ADB officers and to get a better understanding of ADB's climate policy and procurement policies. Now, with those words, I wish you a very fruitful seminar, and I look forward to the next speakers and, of course, to the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernesto, for your wonderful words. And just looking at attendance list, we do have an interesting mix of companies that might be interesting to the Asian Development Bank as well. Let's move forward to the next introduction remarks given by Rustem Abdukayamov, the Director, Procurement Division 2, Procurement, Portfolio and Financial Management. Rustem, can I give the floor to you?
Thank you so much, Ravi, and good morning to all our participants in the Netherlands. It's indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this still virtual business opportunity seminar. I would like to thank Ravi and Ernesto Ram for your support in organizing this event. It's not the first time, and I think we can strengthen our cooperation with the Dutch firms. As you know, for the last 2 years, we have been conducting these business opportunities seminars virtually, and we still see quite strong interest from business communities around the world. Last year, we have conducted these kind of events almost on a weekly basis. Today's business opportunity seminar is the first we are organizing this year. And it is still virtual, but since travel restrictions have been lifted, I hope we'll start organizing soon these kind of events in person in many of our constituencies. And we are also considering organizing one big business opportunities fair in Manila. We used to do it annually before the pandemic. Then, of course, it was difficult to conduct, but we are targeting maybe September this year to organize this big event in Manila. And once the dates are confirmed, we will announce this through our website. And you may check periodically ADB website. If you go to ADB Business Center, there is a ADB Business Opportunities Outreach page. So there we will indicate the exact dates when we will propose this seminar. And then, of course, you could register and participate in them. So today's topic of the seminar is climate resilience. So we'll be discussing about challenges caused by climate change and ADB's program in this field. We will also cover ADB's procurement policies and procedures. We noted that the climate change generates a lot of interest from many constituencies, from many of our participants. And we are, of course, trying to cover many aspects of that in our seminars. But this topic is not only of interest to our partners outside of ADB, but I just wanted to emphasize it's one of the priorities under ADB's Strategy 2030, and we call it Tackling Climate Change, Building Climate and Disaster Resilience, and Enhancing Environmental Sustainability. For some of you who have not been participating in our business opportunities for the last couple of years, I would like to share that based on requests from many participants, back in October 2021, we have organized one large BOS under the same theme. It was called Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management. And this was not for a particular country. It was open to all participants from all ADB members, was attended by about 1,000 participants. All presentations and video recording of this seminar are available on ADB website, and our team will share the link with the participants so that you can just check what we have been discussing last time. And also just for general information that there's still a lot of useful information about ADB's program that we have been discussing in 2021. As you all know, climate change is a very big theme. It's not focused on a particular sector, industry, or region. Normally in all BOS we tell that about ADB portfolio, about the sectoral split, and we always tell transport and energy are the two largest sectors in ADB portfolio. Then the third one is urban and water, and then the natural resources. For the couple of last 2 years, we have seen increase in health and education, and we see a steady increase actually in all sectors. But when we talk about climate change, regardless of actual share of all these sectors in ADB portfolio, in all projects, there are features aimed at addressing climate change challenges and improving climate resilience of our borrowers. As probably you know, we have 5 regional departments: Central West, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. And each department has a focal point on climate change. And of course, I would say that because this climate change challenges could be addressed in many dimensions and many sectors, there will be plenty of opportunities for consultants, contractors, and suppliers in all sectors. And there will be many opportunities, whether it is in providing specific services, supply of equipment, or construction of infrastructure facilities. So as I think we all know, Dutch companies have certain expertise, especially in the water sector. I think this is very well known to ADB's water experts. If there are other innovative technologies in other areas, yeah, we'll be very glad to hear from you where we can improve, because now what we see from our borrowers, they want to introduce more innovations. It's not doing business as usual, and our role is also to basically bring these innovations. But before bringing that, we have to understand what kind of innovations are available in the market. So before moving forward, I just wanted to say a few words about ADB's portfolio so that you have a kind of a bigger picture, right? And since we're in January 2023, last year's performance data are still being compiled and analyzed. I will just talk about 2021. But the overall ADB operations as of 2021 were $118 billion US. This comprises of $104 billion of sovereign operations. These are loans guaranteed by governments, and about $14 billion under non-sovereign operations. And of course, there are consulting opportunities and opportunities for contractors, suppliers under loans and grants, and also under ADB administered activities. Under loans and grants, for consulting services alone, our borrowers have spent about 700 million, only for consulting services. It's very difficult to tell how much was spent on procurement of goods and works. It will be a very huge amount. But in addition to this 700 million that borrowers spent on consulting, ADB has spent about 200 million on consulting services that ADB directly administers. It means ADB does recruitment of consultants and administers all the contracts. Just another piece of information I wanted to share with you. The trend which we basically observed during last maybe 8 years or so. Many borrowers, I have already mentioned, are looking for more complex projects. So they need consulting support, not only in traditional areas and project preparation, in the pre-feasibility studies, but also and in project implementation, but more in technically more complex areas. So we are looking for firms who have experience in detailed engineering design, in field surveys using more advanced tools like drones, etc., computer modeling, and also in procurement and construction supervision of large infrastructure facilities. So we have several very large contracts where even construction supervision becomes very complex. And what we see, because the projects become more complex, tasks which are put forward for consultants also becoming more complex. It requires a lot of interdisciplinary skills. So therefore, what we observe many firms, when they bid for ADB finance opportunities, they create consortia or associations. Very rarely we would see one single firm submitting an application to be shortlisted and then submits a bid. Even large, very well-known international consulting firms, they try to basically expand their expertise by having association with the smaller firms. And this provides opportunity for both large and small firms to participate in ADB projects. And of course, if small firms have some unique technical experience or tools or innovative technologies, this will be always an advantage, and it will help you to win contracts under ADB finance projects. The same goes to contractors, but that was very common. For example, for EPC contracts, which is design and build by contractors, or especially design, build, operate, it's very common to have a consortium of 2 or 3 companies because they have specific expertise, one in design, another in construction, another in operation and maintenance of facilities. But in the consulting market, we see that trend maybe just recently, and as I said, maybe last 8 to 5 years. So therefore, I'm sure there are plenty of opportunities under ADB finance projects, and I hope today's seminar will be quite useful for you. At least you will learn something new, which you may not be aware of. We will provide guidance on how to find more information on ADB website. And I hope as a result, you will be able to win contracts under ADB projects. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Ravi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rustam, and thank you once again for your insights in the finance projects of ADB and the interest, especially on this topic of climate resilience and climate change. Before I go and give the word to Noel for the Business Opportunity Seminar presentation on climate resilience, I would like to remind everyone to use the chat if you have questions, and please redirect them to the respective experts so we can answer them. And I can imagine that there might be some questions already coming up. So yeah, let's move to the next part. I would like to give the floor to Noel O'Brien, who is the Chief of Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management Thematic Group Concurrent Director at the Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management Division at the ADB. Noel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ravi. And can I just confirm that all is okay? We've had various global technology issues today.
No, we can hear you clearly.
Please flag with me if there are issues in the meantime. So obviously, ADB has a huge set of growing work on climate change. And with this session, I'm going to really touch on an overview of the session, and then give you some ideas on the kinds of projects, but also then open the door for how you can obviously follow up with additional information. So in terms of, let's just go to the third slide in this presentation, and it's really to set the context in the region for which ADB is working. This slide tries to encapsulate the climate change and disasters which the region has had to contend with since 2015. You can see that ADB's developing member countries are amongst the most vulnerable countries in the world, and that we have a significant number of disasters and an increasing frequency and intensity of these disasters. You'll see the enormous losses for 2022 alone. We have an indication that the losses for Pakistan in itself were about 33 billion and affecting 33 million people. So just enormous significance. So this topic is obviously not, it is the sustainability of development in the region is a challenge with this kind of impact from climate change, but also the question of the sustainability for ADB's business. So it's absolutely critical that we are engaged in reducing emissions and also
helping to build resilience in the countries. So moving on to the next slide is just to give you an overview of ADB's positioning. We see ourselves as the bank, sorry, so ADB is Asia and the Pacific's climate bank. And in line with that, we have significantly increased our commitments on climate change up to 2030. You'll be aware of the COP27 in Egypt last year. We were very active at that. We had discussions with a number of the representatives from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has made a commitment of 20 million to ADB's Water Resilience Trust Fund, which was announced at COP. But in terms of more generally, as a climate bank, we have made a significant increase in climate finance, and we intend to continue to grow that between now and 2030. We have an ambition to spend 100 billion of our own resources on climate change between the period of 2019 to 2030. So far, we're averaging a figure in the range of about 5 billion per year. When the figures are confirmed for 2022, we will have exceeded that. But to meet the target of 100 billion, we will have to grow our business to about 11 billion per year from now on. And that's potentially half of ADB's portfolio on an annual basis. Where do we see this coming from? We see a very big scale up in finance for adaptation and resilience. We see a big increase in private sector climate finance. And also we have committed to the Paris alignment of all of ADB's investments by 2023 for our sovereign investments, and 85% of non-sovereign investments also by July this year, with 100% by 2025. So really substantial increase in commitments. We see, what does this mean for ADB? We see ADB looking at this at three perspectives. We describe it from the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. And at the upstream level, we see ADB shaping the legal, the regulatory, and the policy environment for climate change. And at the midstream, we see this as the translation of the legal, regulatory, and policy environment into government regular planning processes and cycles. And also from that, we see the ADB pipeline of projects emerging. So country decisions on where and what they want to invest on and what they want to use ADB's finances to support. And then at the downstream level, we see it as the distinct projects and the activities that we intend to support and catalyze. So we are developing a climate change action plan. It will be completed at the Q2 this year. And we are really scaling up our action on each of these levels with our DMCs. And part of that engagement at the upstream level means working very closely with the countries on their climate architecture, their institutional arrangements, their funds, their nationally determined contributions, and their long-term strategies, their adaptation plans. So you will see us some work on how we take the adaptation plans, let's say for an agriculture sector, and convert that into an investment pipeline. We use technical assistance finance, often ADB's own technical assistance funding, but also some partner technical assistance to support these initiatives at government level. And you will often see opportunities for individual consultants or firms to support that kind of work. Now, moving on to the next slide in terms of climate finance. This is slide 7. And you can see what I have here is a very packed slide. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, but I just want you to be aware that ADB works very hard to mobilize climate finance above and beyond our regular financing. I'll come back to a couple of these examples in future slides, but raising climate finance includes using trust funds, market mechanisms, and private sector facilities. Really, climate change is a market failure, and where the private cost to emitting is lower than the social cost. So although carbon pricing is one way around this, we're not there yet. So from our perspectives, it is very important to mobilize not just more financing, but more concessional and grant financing, which we can then use to subsidize or de-risk investments that promote this climate action. And so we're always looking for more ways to make our lending more concessional. And moving on to the next slide now, I just want to address the 2 examples of concessional resources. These are the climate investment funds, which provide large-scale, low-cost, and long-term financial solutions to support countries to achieve their climate objectives. ADB is responsible for administering half of the CIF funds in ADB's region. And at the currently, you can see that that's 2.86 billion US dollars. Most of this has come from the sovereign side, but we expect the non-sovereign side to continue to grow. Another big source of our concessional finance is the Green Climate Fund. It is a critical element of the Paris Agreement. It's the world's largest climate fund, and it is mandated to support developing countries realize and to also raise their nationally determined, the ambition of their NDCs towards low emissions, climate resilience pathways. So ADB is currently administering about $1 billion in GCF funding. And we're currently negotiating the renewal of our agreement with the GCF and hope to be able to increase that grant financing in the not too distant future. Moving on to the next slide, let's just take a look at some of the more innovative and private sector finance opportunities. I'm not sure if some of you have heard about ADB's energy transition mechanism. It's one of very high profile initiatives currently. If I can take the slide back to the ETM program, please. It's jumped ahead in the slide, or have you, okay. Sorry, there's a, yeah, this one, sorry. It's okay. So starting with, we know that coal-fired power plants account for nearly 30% of global carbon dioxide emissions. And according to the International Energy Agency, phasing out of unabated coal power is a very important lever to decarbonize the global economy in line with the 1.5 degree ambition. We know that we need to phase out coal by 2030, as in the OECD countries and in the rest of the world by 2040. So ADB has launched a bold new initiative where we want to use market mechanisms to help reduce the lifespan of coal power plants. So we have come to agreements with the government of the Republic of Indonesia, the Republic of the Philippines, and also Vietnam to develop a partnership to design and launch a mechanism which would accelerate the transition from coal to clean energy in a just and affordable manner. So the slide has more details on that, and obviously happy to answer questions if there's more interest. Other innovative areas are in the finance sector. So we know that the development of the finance sector in the Asia Pacific region still lags substantially behind that of other developed economies. But we also know that the finance sector development contributes to climate change mitigation and adaptation, as appropriate risk assessments and forecasts, methodologies, as well as innovative risk transfer solutions are used to foster a decarbonized and financially resilient society. And we are exploring this in several ways. The development and use of diverse, innovative green financial approaches and instruments, including, for example, green bonds, sustainability-linked bonds, the environment, social and governance bonds, and green banks. Also, the financing of sustainable agriculture, supply and value chain financing, as well as blue financing through a blended finance platform, the SME Blue Impact Asia, as well as also promoting greenhouse gas absorption and sequestration projects. Disaster risk financing is another area, particularly through the insurance industry, but also through ADB's own mechanisms with instruments developed at country level. Now, in terms of the ADB's private sector, it's a very important part of the story, and we have an ambitious private sector program with important finance targets. We're looking at ADB having 12 billion of ADB's own resources between now and 2030, and with a very substantial leverage of 18 to 30 billion of private sector finance at the same time. If we look at some of the examples of the recent projects that have emerged through the private sector, we have a 144 megawatt wind farm in Vietnam. This is wind power capacity has been increased by 30%. And we also have capacity building in climate smart cocoa and coffee farming, best practices and financial literacy in both Indonesia and PNG. Climate finance for financial intermediary is also a very important growing area for us. It's one example is where we're developing affordable and sustainable residential housing development in Georgia. And we also have initiatives emerging in other countries, including Indonesia. We also see the importance of the climate funds providing concessional finance to address these market failures. We have a Climate Innovation and Development Fund together with the Bloomberg Family Foundation and the Goldman Sachs Charitable Gift Fund. And this is supporting climate mitigation and adaptation projects in both India and Vietnam. So those are some of the examples there. I'm going to move on and look at some of the sector projects. This is, if we can move on with the slides, please. Moving on down, sorry, I forgot to move on. Let's move on to the sectors and themes, please. Okay, and to the next, to that slide, great. So ADB has committed in 2022, so the figure we have committed is 6.7 billion of climate finance, and that has 62% going on mitigation and the remainder going on adaptation, so 38%. The largest sector has been transport, And traditionally, energy and transport are the biggest sectors, with agriculture and natural resource often being the biggest area for adaptation. I'm now going to go through several examples to give you a flavor of what are the projects we support. So this slide, and I've included in the links on this slide to give you some additional example of the kinds of projects that are coming through the ADB pipeline. We have the Philippines. This is the Davao Public Transport Modernization Project. This was just committed at the end of 2022, but it is the establishment of a modern urban bus system in the Davao City, and you can find a lot more details at the link. In China, we have the Gansu Environmentally Sustainable Rural Vitalization and Development Project. And here we're aiming to demonstrate innovative, low carbon and environmentally sustainable rural models in Gansu province by supporting the use of renewable energy, sustainable agricultural practices, and high-level technologies. So bringing those together. Again, check the website for more details. We've just also approved in Lao PDR the Monsoon Wind Power Project. It entails a wind power project with a contracted capacity of 600 megawatts to be constructed in Laos, but with the export and sale of electricity to neighboring Vietnam. And obviously with the transmission lines in place from some of the existing hydropower plants, that is a good business opportunity. And then in Cambodia, we have a sector development project for the energy sector. It combines a $50 million policy investment together with 23 million in project investments to support the energy transition in Cambodia. So various projects for you to take a closer look at. The next slide, moving on, we actually looked more closely at two projects. The Chennai Rail Project. This is a $780 million facility to build new lines and improve the connectivity of the metro rail system at Chennai, the capital of Tamil Nadu state. This will link in with the city's existing bus and feeder services. And by fostering a shift to greenhouse gas emitting metro systems, it has a substantial benefit for climate change mitigation. As long as we ensure that appropriate design elements are incorporated, we can also ensure that improvement to resilience. Another rail project by coincidence here is the South Commuter Rail Project in the Philippines. This is a very, very substantial investment for Metro Manila, linking with it the city of Calamba in the Philippines. It is part of a north-south commuter rail corridor for the city and is ADB's largest infrastructure financing project for the region. So those are projects that you may want to take a closer look at as part of ADB's project pipeline. Now, moving to this, just examples of scaling up at adaptation, I want to bring your attention to a couple of investments that we have worked on. One is a multi-hazard and disaster risk assessment that we conducted for the island of Tonga Tapu in the Pacific. Here we are trying to understand the long-term risk that the island and the capital city will have to face with extreme events, but also sea level rise. And as you can see just from the image here, we have a large portion of the city potentially under 1.5 to 2 meters of sea level rise. we expect that the learning from this assessment will be incorporated into Tonga's spatial planning process and to help influence the development pathway for the city to a more resilient future. The second project is a project that was processed in October 22. It is a development, or what we call type 2 adaptation project. It is a coastal towns climate resilient project for 250 million. It is designed to improve the livability of selected vulnerable coastal towns by strengthening their climate and disaster resilience and enhancing their ability to anticipate and recover from the impacts of climate shocks and coastal stresses. We have 22 towns in 10 coastal districts. And this is obviously an investment that has huge learning capacity from the investments that the Netherlands has made. The last example that I'll just mention here is the Community Resilience Partnership Project. It's responding to the goal of scaling up climate adaptation financing and measures, but also aiming to support countries to achieve targets under the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Resilience, and sustainable goals. It's very much focused on supporting community level adaptation of poor and vulnerable people, developing national and local policies and plans and programs that promote financing for community-led adaptation, and with also a particular emphasis on increasing the meaningful participation of poor, women and men in resilience-related decision-making. This project is kicking off with TA financing, but it is aimed to establish a 10-year facility with a trust fund that is supporting research, policy dialogues, capacity building and sharing lessons, but also then project preparation, pre-feasibility, feasibility studies, and also grants for pilots and to support the grassroots women organizations and their engagement. Moving on to the next slide, if that's okay. We have then also a number of examples from the Pacific context. We have the Kiribati South Taro Water Supply Project. This brings together ADB, GCF, World Bank, and Government of Kiribati finance. It's improving water supply services by construction of a desalination plant, which are supported by solar PVs, and also the distribution of that water supply. In Nauru, ADB is supporting the construction of a port upgrade with co-financing from Australia, the GCF, and the government of Nauru, and this would allow year-round port operation for one of the Pacific's small island development states. Another project, just the Tonga Renewable Energy Project, very much focused on scaling up renewables for Tonga with the development of a large battery energy storage system on the island of Tongatapu. It's funded by private independent power producers and enabling the power to be stored overnight and to be stored from PV generation and then used overnight without negatively affecting Tonga's power grids. We also have that stretching out to some of the outer islands. And then moving on to my last slide, it's really just giving you a list of some of the kinds of energy investments that ADB is supporting in the Central Asia region over the period 2017 to 2022. In Tajikistan, the reconnection of the Central Asia power system. in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, hydropower plant modernization, Uzbekistan, a solar public-private partnership investment, Azerbaijan solar power project, and then a wind power project in Uzbekistan. Also, we have a number of energy projects in Mongolia, upscaling renewable energy sector project, first utility scale energy storage project. And these are all available on our website. And that really brings me to the end of the presentation. I will be happy to take questions for you. There are a couple of additional slides which give you more information on some of the discussions that came out of COP and the potential for scaling up involvement of the MDBs, things like the Loss and Damage Fund, climate finance, our joint MDB work. But then also the last slide in the pack gives you a little, it brings you back to the ETM, but also, and the Community Resilience Partnership, but also links you with a new fund that ADB is establishing, the Innovative Financing Facility for Asia and the Pacific, which is aiming to raise guarantee financing, which would allow us to really grow our dedicated climate lending facility. We have an ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility, and then all of our work on carbon markets. So I hope that was helpful and not too far removed from your business interests, but happy to take further questions later. Back to you, Ravi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Noel, for your insights and making it a bit more concrete. And just having a look at the chat, I do see some questions popping up, which is always good. We'll try to address them in the Q&A, but just having a look at the time, I would like to move forward with Talat Nazirov's presentation on ADB's procurement systems. Talat Nazirov is the procurement specialist at the Procurement Portfolio and Financial Management Department at the ADB. Talat, can you take it over?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Talat Nasirov. I am procurement specialist in ADB. You must be interested how to participate in ADB finance projects. So today I would like to introduce ADB procurement system and business opportunities. Let me share my screen.
Screen is visible, but could you make it larger?
Is it okay now?
It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's the content of my presentation. So I will talk about the 6 key areas, which you can see on the screen. So I'm not going to read them. So first of all, about ADB. It was established in 1966 with a headquarters in Manila, Philippines. It has 68 shareholder member countries, 49 of them regional and 19 non-regional. It has over 3,000 staff, 29 resident missions, and 3 representative offices. So if you like to know more about ADB, if you have questions, just how it was established and why Manila was selected as for headquarters. So I recommend you to read the book, which is in the upper right corner of my presentation. So the book is dedicated to 50 years anniversary since ADB established, and it is openly available on our website. So the next slide about our portfolio in 2021. So the total size of approved project was $104 billion. And here you can see by regions. So the largest region was South Asia, followed by Southeast Asia, and then by Central and West Asia and other regions. So by sector concentration, the largest sector was transport, followed by energy, then by water and urban infrastructure sector, and then follows by other sectors. In 2022, ADB approved loans and grants for over $12 billion. And our private sector portfolio is $14 billion. Here, some facts about Netherlands and ADB. Netherlands joined ADB in 1966. The share of Dutch companies in our procurement, you can see here from the table. So in 2020, the total share was $22.4 million. And unfortunately, it decreased in 2021. It was $10.8 million. And the Dutch companies mainly participate in consulting services. On this slide, you can see the top 5 consulting companies engaged in ADB finance projects. So the largest one is Royal Haskoning, which participate in 4 sectors with a total amount of contracts for $18 million, followed by Euroconsult, McDonald, and other companies, which are also engaged in several sectors. On this slide, you can see the project cycle of our sovereign operations. So in every developing countries, we start our operations from preparation of country partnership strategy. So this is a long-term strategy for 5 years. Then it followed by preparation of indicative pipeline of investment projects for 3 years. And then for every project provided in our pipeline, we prepare project concept paper. And based on that, ADB provides technical assistance grant to prepare a feasibility study. Once we prepare a feasibility study, we discuss it with the government, agree it on both sides, clear it by ADB and by the government, and then we follow with loan negotiations. After successful negotiation, we both sides approve the loan project. Then we sign loan agreement and start implementation. So once we complete implementation, we prepare a project completion review report, and then this report should be validated by ADB's independent evaluation department. And every such a completion report have conclusions and recommendations, which goes to our new projects and to our new country partnership strategies. So this is a full cycle. And here you can see the opportunities for consultants, suppliers, and contractors. So the consultants have opportunities almost on every stage of the cycle, while suppliers and contractors are mainly engaged in implementation stage. Here on this side, you can see information about operational procurement in 2022. So here information by region. So again, the largest size of contracts was in South Asia and Southeast Asia. And by sector, you can see that the large share is the other related services, but it is because of policy-based and result-based lending provided to our developing countries. But the largest actually contracts was for civil works, then followed by goods, and then by consulting services. Here you can see on this slide information about contracts by sector. So the largest two sectors are public sector management and health. It's because ADB support to COVID response through budget support. Then the other sector is water and urban infrastructure, transport, energy, finance, and agriculture. So ADB's new procurement framework was approved in 2017. So it comprises two documents. First is ADB procurement policy, and second one is the procurement regulations. So they are supported by 27 guidance notes to help our clients in every specific procurement cases and circumstances. What is ADB role and the government role in a procurement? ADB oversees the client's compliance with ADB's procurement policy and regulations. So how we do it? We are doing it through prior and post review of clients' procurement transactions. From the government side, the Ministry of Finance usually engaged in a signing of loan agreement. The sector agency, which is a sector ministry, they mainly involved in overall project coordination and some policy reforms, and implementing agency, which are usually sector and municipal agencies, are responsible specifically for project implementation and procurement. So they invite and evaluate bids, sign and manage contracts, and monitor performance of consultants, suppliers, and contractors. So ADB Strategy 2030 is aligned with sustainable development goals. So in order just to achieve that goals, we use sustainable procurement, which encourage borrowers to apply it in order to achieve value for money. So in our definition, sustainable procurement is integration of economic and social development, environmental protection, and quality institutional governance. So what we do, we design sustainability targets in our project concept and appraisal documents. Then at the preparation stage, in the procurement side, we start to consider sustainability principles as part of our strategic procurement planning process. Then during implementation, we add sustainable procurement targets in the bidding documents through specification and evaluation criteria. Then we evaluate that sustainable procurement targets when we receive bids. And finally, when the contracts start, when we start to implement the contracts, so we monitor achievement of sustainable procurement targets during contract implementation. So I would like just to highlight that our sustainable procurement guidance note was issued in December 2021, and the capacity of our borrowing countries, unfortunately, is very low. So that's why they need support in capacity building, in a policy reform, in institutional development. So there are many opportunities for consulting services in this regard. Here, the key types of the business opportunities available in ADB finance projects. First of all, it's a consulting services for project preparation and implementation. So to prepare feasibility study, detailed design, to help with the construction supervision, environmental and social safeguards, gender, knowledge products, policy reforms, and advisory support. So in goods, it's mainly supply of machinery, equipment, ICT software, furniture, and other goods. So works comprise construction and rehabilitation of roads, railways, bridges, irrigation canals, schools, and other infrastructure. So we also have EPC contracts for procurement of power plants, pump stations, water treatment plants, heating plants, airports, and other infrastructure. So the next one is non-consulting services. This is a comparatively small size contracts for surveys, audit, training, translation, ICT software, and event management. On this side, you can see the how to find the opportunities for consulting services companies. So if you go to our website and click to work with us, so you should choose consultants, and it will bring you to the next page where you our consultants which are interested in ADB finance projects, so they will find information, instruction, tips, and guidance how to become a consultant for ADB finance projects, how to register in consultant management system. So this is the main system which we use for recruitment of consultants. So they can also find information how to express their interest and how to submit technical and financial proposals. So here the reference, the link to the quick reference guide. So how to use our consultant management system. So the detailed information is provided mainly here about registration, about submission of expression of interest, and about also submission of technical and financial proposals through our CMS system. Here on this page, you can see information about the tenders. We call it consulting services recruitment notices, which we post on our website, and it's openly available. So any company which are interested to provide services can just navigate it by type of consulting services. It can be for firms or for individuals, by country, by sector. So, but in order to submit their expression, as I told you before, first of all, they should be registered in our consulting management system, and only after that, consulting companies can submit their expression of interest, and if shortlisted, also submit their technical and financial proposals. Here is our key 6 selection methods which we use for recruitment of consulting firms. The first one and mainly used is quality and cost-based selection. Then is quality-based selection. After that is consultant qualification selection, followed by fixed budget selection, least cost selection, and direct contracting, which we use in very few cases when it should be reasonable justification shall be provided for the direct contracting. On the left side, you can see our guidance notes on consulting services, so which is also available and downloadable on our website. So the more information you can find it there. So on this slide is some few tips for consulting firms. First of all, they should understand the country, project, and the client requirements, read terms of reference, and understand the scope of works. So they may engage with other firms to strengthen their capacity and experience. So they have to express, first of all, their interest, and if they are shortlisted, they should carefully read RFP's instructions and complete the forms. They must avoid conflict of interest, unfair competition, and corruption. They should look at eligibility requirements. The firm shall be from eligible country, from ADB member country. They are encouraged to visit the project site. If they have any questions or doubts, they should seek clarification in writing from the client. So they are expected to prepare responsive, strong technical proposal and competitive financial proposal, and they must be fair and honest with the client at contract negotiation and during contract implementation. On this slide, you can see opportunities for suppliers and contractors. So again, there is a link to work with us and to the section dedicated for contractors and suppliers. So it brings again to instructions, tips and guides, how to participate in supply of goods and civil works on the ADB finance projects. On this page, you can see how to navigate tenders. We call it invitation for bids. So if you click on projects and tenders, it will bring you to the next page where we post all invitation for bids. So our suppliers and contractors can again navigate it by country, by sector. And once they can click to every invitation for bids, and then they will find information about qualification and experience requirements, about the fee which they need to pay to purchase the bidding documents, and the client's contact information from where they can get the bidding documents. So all this information is open and freely available, and no need for registration. Just any contractor or supply company can navigate our website and get information about the invitation for bids. So on this side, common mistakes which our suppliers and contractors are doing when they prepare bids. Sometimes they submit their bid proposals very late. So they include financial and technical bids in one envelope under one stage two envelope procedures. Sometimes bids are not duly signed or with insufficient validity. They fail to submit bid security, or their bid security is with insufficient amount or validity. Sometimes their bids includes the conflict of interest. For example, the two subsidiaries of one mother company are participating in the tender. Firms or joint venture could be not from ADB member country, so they fail to provide the supporting documents in order to substantiate their qualification and experience. So they submit incomplete, partial, conditional bids. In many cases, their method statements are poor. Insufficient information about health and safety plan, site environmental management plan. So there are some cases when bidders submit unbalanced and abnormally low bids price. And sometimes there is a lack of price adjustment information in adjustable contracts. And there are some cases with mispresentation of information related to their financial capacity and experience. And our suggestion when our bidders, they have any questions or doubts, they always must seek a clarification from the client. So once we complete bidding, approve evaluation and the contract award to successful bidder, then unsuccessful bidder may request debriefing from the client. And if they are not happy with the debriefing provided to them, so they may submit a complaint. So there are two ways to submit a complaint. First one, to submit it directly to the client with copy to ADB. And the second option, these unsuccessful bidders can submit their complaint directly to ADB through the link provided below. And also, if they want to report any corruption, also there is a link with a form how to report that fraud or corruption case, which goes directly to our integrity department. If consultants, contractors, and suppliers are interested to get notifications about business opportunities, about ongoing tenders, so they can subscribe for such alerts and notices on provided based on the provided links. So for more information, you can visit our website. So there is also opportunities for networking, for consultants, for suppliers. There is also ADB Business Center on LinkedIn. And if you have questions, so you can directly contact me. Thank you. This is end of my presentation. So I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Talat, for your presentation, especially incorporating green sustainable procurement as well, and giving concrete examples on how to register. Just keeping my eye on the time, I would like to move immediately to the Q&A. There are a few questions that came in from the companies. Let's just start immediately. Talat, I believe this question is for you, but is there a possibility for the ADB to fund unsolicited proposals?
Excuse me, can you repeat the question?
Of course. Is there a possibility for the ADB to fund unsolicited proposals?
Unsolicited proposal, we mainly use it in public-private partnership. So it depends again from the project specifics, and if there is no any other other companies who can provide such kind of services or such kind of construction, so then in this case this is considered on the project by project case. So on a specific cases, if it's justified, the reason is justifiable, then it's possible to provide. But again, it does not go directly to ADB. It should go to the country, to the client.
Okay, thank you. So there is a possibility, but it depends as well on the country.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances. But usually we mainly encourage the open competition rather than these unsolicited proposals.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering. We do have another question. Dutch companies win far more consultancy projects than construction goods. Is there an explanation for this difference? Sorry? Is there a difference for, maybe to rephrase it, but is there a difference between why, for example, Dutch companies win more consultancy projects than construction goods? Is there an explanation for that? Or any advice or tips you could give?
The main explanation, maybe you see that in the civil works, I think, first of all, there are such countries where the labor and materials, they have a comparative advantage. So that's why maybe mainly Dutch companies consider that it's not feasible maybe to participate in such project. So they may think that companies from other countries can propose more low price for a reasonable quality.
Okay, so then it's then based on price, if I'm correct then.
Yeah, it's mainly based on so in some countries the labor and materials are cheaper, so this is a key reason. Unless it is something specific, maybe it's in a green procurement, in some when we will use more green and sustainable procurement. So I believe it will be more opportunity for Dutch companies just to participate not only in the consulting services, but also in supply of goods, equipment, and actually civil works. So I would highlight from my experience from Uzbekistan. So it is not a direct actually procurement, but we are financing horticulture sector there, and then they procure many greenhouses from actually Netherlands, and they prefer to use Netherlands technologies, especially for the greenhouses.
That is good to hear. And Rustam, I saw that you would like to add something. Am I correct?
Yeah, if I may just to add, because I think have to understand how contractors make decision whether to participate or not in tenders. If you look at the ADB project website, every day there will be some invitations for bid published. But of course, each company will make its independent decision whether to participate or not. Why consulting is relatively easier to participate? Because the cost of preparation of proposals is relatively low compared to preparing a proposal for large infrastructure contract, where the cost of preparing proposal could be huge. So therefore, companies decide whether it makes sense to go for this kind of investment and what is the likelihood of winning such contract. Usually, the bigger is the investment project, the bigger the contract, the companies know their competitors. It's not the first time they have to think whether they can win or not. They might be already dealing with the same competitors for many, many years. And another important thing we have to keep in mind that over time, local contractors, they have significantly improved their capacities. And if we compare to 20 years ago, there was probably more competition among foreign companies in ADB projects. Now you would see more and more local companies competing, and sometimes our market assessment shows that because the number of local companies is so huge in a particular country, there is traditionally no participation, no interest from foreign contractors. And it's not only from Dutch, from many others also. And also I have to keep into account the distance. Because for civil works, all the materials will have to be sourced from different places. And especially if it is very complex engineering projects, a lot of equipment has to be sourced because it's not available in the country, like tunnel boring machines. So the cost of that transportation of that from Europe to Asia is, of course, additional cost compared to other competitors. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rustam, for your elaboration as well. Noel, do you want to add something or?
No, thank you.
Sorry, Ravi, I just have a 6:30 commitment. So I just wanted to check if there was anything on the climate side that I can respond to. I've shared my email address.
Of course, yeah, that's something that I wanted to move on. There are some questions for you, but let's just pick one of them and then we'll move towards the end. For the questions that we haven't answered, feel free to mail us and then we'll redirect them. There is this question about the minimal capital expenditure needed for climate resilience adaptation projects in order for the ADB to invest in. Is there a certain capital expenditure requirement needed or a minimum amount that they need to invest in projects for the ADB?
So am I interpreting the question that are there, for climate resilience projects, is there a minimum size for the project? Is that what the question is? I
Exactly.
mean, you know, you saw there that I gave the example of the kind of analysis that we did in Tonga, Tapu. It wasn't a Dutch company, but certainly Del Torres have been involved in similar work with MDBs in the Pacific. Some of this work is purely intellectual analytics work. The range may be from $500,000 to $1 million for analysis of that type. And then you're working all the way up, to the kinds of large infrastructure projects where you will have a substantial component of it. So really, really different scales. And as you can see with the Community Resilience Partnership Initiative, we're looking at local-led, community-type investments in resilience, which are small-scale, operated by communities. So that's really a difficult question, but really an area that ADB is doing a lot more work of, and you will see more of what we call the Type 2 adaptation projects coming through for approval, but not necessarily all infrastructure. In some contexts, it may be a combination where you may have a landscape or an infrastructure dimension, but it may come with a livelihood component, which may come with a kind of social protection dimension, which we are expanding into, want to expand into more climate extreme events related. There may be an insurance component. You may bring with that some financial intermediary. So again, that brings in the kind of consortium of expertise that Rustam mentioned much earlier. So I think it's so very difficult. Sorry, I'm not giving a straight answer and a number on that. But thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be involved in this process, and look forward to continue engage and to answer questions as they come through. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you, Noelle. And I saw that you shared your email address as well. So if there are any questions, still feel free to mail her as well. Just looking at the time, we are actually running a bit out of time. So I would like to move towards the ending, the closure of this meeting. I'll share my screen as well. 1 second. Yes. Oh, something else. Okay, we haven't been able to answer all the questions, but feel free to mail us using our TL mail address. But yeah, first of all, a big thanks to all the speakers from the Asian Development Bank for sharing your insights, and as well on the procurement procedures, opportunities that there are, and as well on the topic of climate resilience. I would like to once again emphasize that we at TL engage with multilateral development banks and organizations such as the ADB, and we do see them as a strong partner, especially in the developing sector. As for the Dutch companies that were present today, I would like to thank you for your presence and asking the questions in the Q&A. I hope it's been useful and interesting to you as well. Please do not hesitate to contact us via our TO@rwo.nl mail. If you have any questions about the ADB or any other banks in that regards, feel free to contact us, and we hope that your engagements with us doesn't end here, and hope to be in contact moving forward. Thanks once again for being present, and for everyone that's in Asia or anywhere else, we wish you a good afternoon and a fijne middag for everyone in the Netherlands. Thank you very much for your presence and active participation.
Thank you very much. Hartelijk bedankt en succes aan alle Nederlandse bedrijven.
Yes, dankjewel.